Are you digging up the dirt on your dead? Want to find out how? Hear the latest on new family history sources and websites with interesting and fun guests and experts. Find out what other people have been learning about their ancestors. From kings to thieves, inventors to farmers, nothing that's been discovered should surprise us anymore, but it always does. Find out what we mean. Great family history stories and information are on the way now with Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and extremegenes.com.
It's been this way for generations.
Extreme Genes, Extreme Genes.
Dates in the Bible don't quite match the marriage certificate.
Extreme Genes, Extreme Genes.
Uh-oh.
Greetings, Genies, and welcome back to another edition of Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, America's family history show, where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. I am Fisher, your radio root sleuth. Tons of great info and stories today. I'll tell you about our guests coming up in a minute here. But first, I want to congratulate my wife's favorite uncle. All right, her only uncle, Robert Burke of Martinsville, Indiana. We call him D-Cub, which stands for Dr. Colonel Uncle Bob. He got an honorary doctorate in forestry from Purdue University. He was named a Kentucky colonel in 2011, and he's an awesome uncle. D-Cub, D-C-U-B, Dr. Colonel Uncle Bob. He insists we now call him that. Demands respect. Anyway, he's been a wealth of family history stories, and he just turned 80 this past week and had quite a party in Indiana. Here's a story he recently told us. He was at a funeral for the wife of a close family friend recently. He was a close enough friend to be invited to sit on the front row with the family. As the minister was singing the praises of the deceased, his cell phone began to ring, loud enough that it echoed throughout the church. He reached in his pocket, cut the ringer, then handed it to the daughter of the dearly departed and said, "Here, it's your mother. She says she's all right." The daughter and those around them began laughing so hard that the pew began to shake. That is one we have added to our history. And coming up for you in about 7 minutes, we'll be talking to Mimi McDonald-Hartnett. She lives in New Jersey and was recently cleaning out the home of a late aunt in Jersey City. And as is often the case, treasures were to be found. We'll tell you about the remnants of her grandfather's World War I service she discovered and what she learned about him. Then later in the show, Anna Swain and Matthew Dayton join us to talk about the retirement of several Ancestry.com offerings, including Y chromosome and mitochondrial DNA tests, as well as MyCanvas.com, which allowed you to create charts and books, and some other features. These changes take effect on September 30th, so you'll want to pay close attention to what they have to say. That'll be in about 25 minutes. Our Extreme Genes poll for this week asked the question, are you aware of any infamous people in your family history? We mentioned people like Benedict Arnold and Butch Cassidy as examples, and fully 63% of people who responded at extremegenes.com said they indeed did have someone in their lines who qualified as infamous. Thanks for voting. This week's poll question asks, do you own a family heirloom that has the initials of one of your ancestors embossed, carved, or in some other way permanently marked on it? Cast your yes or no vote now at extremegenes.com, and we'll get the final results next week. By the way, I am amazed at how excited everyone gets who learns about our free Extreme Genes podcast app for their iPhone or Android. Just go to your phone store, search Extreme Genes, and download it. It costs you nothing, and you can catch all of our past episodes on your phone through Bluetooth in your car, wherever. So get on it. All right, it is time once again for our Family Histoire news from the pages of extremegenes.com. Laura Berry of BBC One has come up with a guide to help you with your online resources, listing her 10 best apps to help you with online searches. She's part of England's version of Who Do You Think You Are and published the list in The Guardian. While I will go through the list quickly here, you'll undoubtedly hear of some apps you've never heard of before, as I have. She gives a pretty detailed description of each app, which devices they work with, and what they do. So go to extremegenes.com to carefully review what is out there and what you can do with them. Number 1 on Laura's list is Interviewee, which works with iPhone and iPad. It's a voice recording app. Second is Ancestry for iPhone, iPad, and Android. Third is the WDYTYA, Who Do You Think You Are forum. It ties into the Who Do You Think You Are magazine in the UK and can connect you with a growing genealogy community there. There's TreeView at number 4. Does a lot, more than I can describe, in building trees and viewing even offline. At number 5, MyHeritage has a special tool for iPhone, iPad, and Android. Great for making and editing your tree and can even incorporate photos into it. Covers 32 languages. Numbers 6 through 10 include Find a Grave, Roots Magic, OneNote, Reunion, and History Pin. I told you wouldn't know them all. Find the link to this fascinating article at extremegenes.com now. MLive of Ann Arbor, Michigan has another great story of a piece of family history that turned out to also be a piece of American history. Bill Robertson and his family were anticipating a visit by Bill's grandparents, so they grabbed a box of old home movies that had been in a closet in Bill's parents' home for years and took them to a local photo preservation shop to digitize them to surprise his guests. The shopkeeper offered to show the Robertsons just how a home movie is digitized, so he randomly grabbed one marked 1941, and they started watching it. The reel had about 4 minutes of footage, with the first minute 25 seconds showing Franklin D. Roosevelt's inaugural parade. With the Ken Burns Roosevelt documentary bringing a ton of interest to the family, Rob Hoffman, who did the digitizing, asked if he could post the clip on his website. The clip caught the attention of the people at the FDR Presidential Library, who then reached out to Hoffman. They asked if the Robertsons would consider gifting the film to the library. With the permission of Robertson's parents, the answer was yes. Watch the beautifully restored and digitized film on our website, extremegenes.com now. It's an amazing piece of camera work and restoration, and if you've been watching the Roosevelts as we have, you'll find it extra interesting. And coming up next, it's the story everyone loves to hear, the clean out of an old family home, in this case in New Jersey, and the discovery of some very cool family history memorabilia. What was found? Who did it belong to? What's going to happen to it all? These are the questions I'll have for Mimi McDonald-Hartnett of Jersey City, New Jersey, coming up next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, America's Family History Show.
Your priceless 8mm home movies and your precious family videos are deteriorating right now. Heat, moisture, insects, dust, mold, time, they're all robbing you of your family's memories. It's time to preserve those treasures right now by digitizing them at tmcplace.com. They've been preserving memories for over 40 years. Home movies, videos, audio tapes, vinyl records, photos, slides, and even scrapbooks. Whether your treasures are enduring the humidity of Massachusetts or the heat of Arizona, tmcplace.com can digitize your audio and images without harming the originals and returning them to you with free shipping both ways on most orders. tmcplace.com can even let you track your package in real time with a special GPS tracking device. Trustworthy, experienced, affordable. Call tmcplace.com toll-free at 1-866-483-1717 to talk to Extreme Genes Preservation Authority Tom Perry about your project, or order online at shop.tmcplace.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family's story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at Storyworth.com/extremegenes. That's Storyworth.com/extremegenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at storyworth.com/extremegenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
You know, when it comes to family history, there's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt and the excitement generated by every new discovery. Who were your immigrant ancestors? What ship did they come over on? Why did they come when they did? Did they participate in any military campaigns that took place in their day? What personal challenges did your forefathers and mothers endure? Heritage Consulting, Genealogy Research Services can get you the answers to many of these questions and more. They've been providing professional research and consultation services since 1978. Call toll-free 1-877-537-2000 to speak directly to a professional family history researcher. Heritage Consulting can research, collect, analyze, and interpret the countless documents your ancestors generated throughout their lives and present the findings to you in an attractive book or in an electronic format. The cost? Far less than you'd expect for far more than you can imagine. 877-537-2000 or go to heritageconsulting.com.
Welcome back to Extreme Genes Family History Radio, extremegenes.com, America's Family History Show. It is Fisher here. And my guest today is Mimi McDonald-Hartnett from New Jersey, who, Mimi, you've been snooping a little lately.
Yeah, I have. We had a very interesting summer. It was one of those things where the expression is lemons into lemonade. Well, my aunt passed away in February, and she left us with this beautiful, beautiful house with a lot of things in it, with an awful lot of family history. So we then started to, clear things out, her clothes, whatever, and remembering stories as we did. And I think we had actually lost our parents, a year before this. So we were pretty much accustomed to how do you clear somebody's house out.
Right.
With as much love and respect, with memories and stories and whatnot. So I'm one of 6 girls.
This is a hard thing to do, isn't it? I mean, because there are so many choices and there's emotion involved. And I kind of learned when we cleared out my mom's place in Oregon years ago that you can't do it all at once because you can't let go of everything at the same time.
Exactly. And we also learned, too, with my parents' house, that a lot of things that were maybe even the slightest bit controversial had nothing to do with the value of whether it was silver or china or whatever. It was the memory that was attached to a particular item.
That's right.
So where clearly it could have been somebody else's junk without a doubt. To us, who cares who got the silver? Who cares who got the Waterford? What mattered to us was, oh, look at that picture or look at that coffee mug. So we then started to do things little by little. As you said, you have to do it in chunks of maybe 2 hours at the max because getting 6 people together is always a challenge.
Yes.
So we were in my aunt's bedroom, which had been my grandparents' bedroom, and that's when my sister Katie uncovered what turned out to be my grandfather's Purple Heart. Now, we knew that my grandfather was in World War I, but we had no idea anything that he did there. We had never even seen this Purple Heart before.
Now, do you remember your grandfather? Had you spoken to him?
I was 10 years old when he died. So he was this very, very gentle, very soft-spoken man who I never heard him raise his voice. He walked to work. He was a deputy surrogate in Hudson County, and he would come home. We would sometimes walk up to meet him, to walk home with him, and just a very, very gentle person who never, ever spoke about the war. And my mother and my aunt, they were twins. I don't think they never spoke about the war because I don't think they actually knew what he did in the war.
Mm-hmm.
So I then sometimes, because I live right next door to where my aunt had been living, I would then sometimes go in to the cell or to a different room and just try and tackle one corner or one dresser or whatever. When I found a pile of papers that I realized were his discharge papers.
Oh, that's good stuff.
That was very good stuff.
Yes.
And then because I was reading in the New York Times, too, this happened to be then the 100th year anniversary of the start of World War I actually was realizing I'm not so sure my history is as good as it should be either. So I then read Guns of August, Robert Tuchman's classic about World War I.
Yes.
Just to kind of give myself more of a background on what are all these things that I'm finding, because now I'm reading that he was in the Argonne Forest. I'm reading that he was in the Signal Corps. But I still didn't really know exactly what he did. Well, then one day I was in the cellar, and there seemed to just be like scrap kinds of things, and I picked up what was an old rusted metal bowl. But when I turned it over, it had leather straps. It was his helmet. It was a doughboy helmet.
Oh, wow.
World War I. So I picked that up. I then went online to just try and figure out, what is this? And I took pictures of it, and then I was looking around like World War I helmets, and I realized this is exactly the type of helmet that was worn in the Argonne Forest in the big charge that ended the war.
Boy, are you guys having a good time at Grandma's house here? Wow.
Oh, my goodness. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. My aunt and my mother never actually left the block. They were born in 81 Magnolia. They then lived 40 years at 87A Magnolia. And then my aunt then was in 83 while we were back in 81, where I grew up then in 81 Magnolia. So they never left the blocks. And all of the other relatives who had been on the same block in Jersey City also then we had other things of theirs that we found in the cellar. So like my Aunt Kate, my Uncle Jimmy, all people who we didn't really know all that well, we are now finding an awful lot that belonged to family history. It was unbelievable what we were finding.
Now, how are you dividing this up, Mimi, among all of you? Because there must be huge interest with all six.
Believe it or not, the decision pretty much has been, I now have everything in a couple of bins in my cellar, so that in case if anybody needs any of this, they all know where it is. But we decided that we'll at least keep it all together. There was one picture of my grandfather apparently there was some training that took place down in Seagirt, New Jersey, and where there's the National Guard training site is there now. And my sister Mary Pat, she lives directly across from that. Well, there was this really big photo of all of the men lined up. So Mary Pat has that now hanging in her house.
Oh, that's great.
So,
are you all getting copies of it, though?
Yeah, as much as we can. And I had then a whole bunch of the other pictures. So what I did was I took a whole bunch of pictures of them, and then everybody now has the digital copy. I had been thinking that, I'd put everything on a disc, but then realizing that, well, the next generation might not be able to play a CD.
The problem you're going to have with that, Mimi, is that these discs, we don't know how long they last more than anything.
Exactly.
And that's an issue. So you really want to make prints of those things for everybody and get them to as many different places as possible.
Yep, that's a great idea. So I kept on finding then other pictures, and I found then another hat, and then I saw what was a crumbled up newspaper. It was in a bag, but it was very, very yellow. And I took it out of the bag, realized that there are two copies. This was in a Jersey Journal newspaper from January of 1919. And the headline talks about Wilson and Germany, but this was 1919, so after the war. And I thought, okay, somewhat interesting, but not a big headline that says Kennedy is shot, or because we found plenty of other newspapers with, like big headlines like that. But I was trying to figure out, why do they have this? And that's when I looked underneath at the subheadline, and it said, the role of the Jersey City Signal Corps in World War I. Well, then it was this really long article, but I couldn't really read it from the original paper because it just was so brittle. So I went to the Jersey City Public Library, and I was able to get it on microfilm, and it was fascinating.
Yes.
And that's when I decided that I really need to write something about this, and that this is a bigger story than anything else that we could be doing here. Because our grandfather, I realized, was, as a member of the Signal Corps, his job was to go ahead of the front line, laying signal lines. And when they would then get shelled or broken in some way, he had to then go in front of the front line and repair them. And there's a line in here then about him being gassed. He was their first casualty.
Oh, really?
He then was gassed. He then spent a few days in the hospital, but then rejoined his Signal Corps.
So you got the full history in this newspaper article, and that's what he was saving, 2 copies of that, because a lot was in there about him.
Exactly. So they mentioned him specifically, and I don't think my mother and my aunt ever saw that article or ever knew that. And I don't even know if they knew that the helmet was there, if I knew that any of these other pictures or that hat that he's wearing in one of his pictures. I don't even know if they knew that it was even there. That's when I decided, too, that this is really a phenomenal story, and this history is truly worth saving.
Absolutely.
And the other piece of this, which was so interesting to me, too, is that, and I learned this not only, with other World War I, but, when we think about the way the world is broken up right now, so much of this connects right back to World War I.
That's right. And then, of course, World War II was the result of a lot of unresolved issues from World War I.
Definitely. You know, we can kind of then think, well, our grandfather, this very, very gentle man, he certainly did his part, and we're very proud of him. But just knowing a little else about him, I don't know, anytime you see more history, it just kind of makes all of us know that we're connected to something greater than just ourselves.
Absolutely. So now you got the issue now of, once again, trying to preserve and divide up. And these are issues that many families go through when someone passes away. I can't tell you how many times I've run into somebody who said, oh, yeah, I got this Bible because somebody had died and we fished it out of the dumpster. And it sounds like none of it ever got to the dumpster in your case because you were all kind of on the ball about this and had a sense of reverence for the family. It could have gone
to the dumpster, but we all decided, no, we need to do this with respect.
Yes, that's right. And that makes such a huge difference, and you're all on the same page, and nobody's fighting over anything. And that's, that's a great blessing. That's awesome stuff.
It really is. But the other very, very interesting thing, which was not in the article at all, was that the house that I'm living in then dates back to 1860. And my father was a funeral director. And it was actually McDonald Funeral Home since the 1860s. And it was just down the block. When I then renovated the house after my parents died and I was then going to be living in it, I found funeral records that dated back to the 1870s.
Oh, wow. Are you talking about the forms that were filled out when somebody died and to provide all the information or obituaries? What was that? What was in that?
Well, it was all in a big ledger. So there was one that covered the 1870s, and it was handwritten in a ledger and in a really big book. And some of the things, the person's name, where they lived, but a lot of times, too, it was the nickname was named and then who the family members were, all first names. But it also then talked about how much ice was used to ice the body, or how many coaches, how many horses, which was really all fascinating.
Yes. Now, what have you done with that?
Well, with that, what I decided to do was to go to the New Jersey room of the Jersey City Public Library. What they were going to do was to scan in the pages so that they would have then a digital record of everything.
Perfect.
So in addition to the actual book.
That's how you want it done. That's perfect. Well, it has been a delight chatting with you. Mimi McDonald-Hartnett from New Jersey. You're inspiring a lot of people. You did it the right way. And look at the treasures you've come up with. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed the process, and I've enjoyed talking to you.
Great. Thank you, Mimi. And coming up next, there are going to be some big changes happening at Ancestry.com in the next few days. You're going to want to find out more. We'll be talking to Matthew Dayton and Anna Swain from Ancestry in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and ExtremeGenes.com.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
Got a brick wall in your family tree? Don't know how to break through it? Get professional help from Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services. Speak directly with an experienced genealogical researcher, not a salesperson, by calling toll-free 1-877-537-2000. When you call, ask how you could win a free 1-hour consultation with an expert genealogist. Heritage Consulting Genealogy Research Services, with over 35 years of research experience. Visit heritageconsulting.com. Did you know your family's memories are being destroyed a little at a time every day? It's true. Old home movies, slides, photos, and audio recordings fade over time. The longer you delay the digitizing of these priceless artifacts, the more likely it is they'll be gone one day. That's why you need to call the Multimedia Center.
I brought in VHS videotape and had them transferred to DVD.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, talking to my friends over at Ancestry.com, Matt Dayton and Anna Swain. And good to have you both. How are you?
Good. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to be here.
We've got a lot going on right now over at Ancestry because you guys are actually retiring some stuff. And, of course, a lot of this has to do with just, changes about the way things are done in the 21st century. And, of course, this probably won't be the last change we see. Let's start with the charts now, guys. My Canvas, I think, is the section on the website that's being retired.
Actually, what happened was we had a large increase of people saying that they really wanted My Canvas, that there was a program that they really enjoyed, that they liked all the charts and books that they could print off about their family history. So it actually was sold to a company that's actually here local to Utah. It is the same company that already prints a lot of the books, and so we have a deal with them where we would have the program online, and you would build out your poster or book, and then we would send that information to this printer, and they would print the books and ship them for us. And they enjoyed that so much that they said we'd actually like to take on that business, and so Ancestry was able to sell that to them, and so they can continue to offer that service.
Okay, so how do people transfer the information they may already have? For instance, I did some beautiful charts through that section and store a lot of photographs there and filled out the family tree. How do people maintain that with the new company?
Well, that's the beauty, is it's already on Ancestry. It's that publish button at the very top, and it's going to remain there. And so most people won't even know that there's a change.
Oh, okay.
You'll have all of your information on there and the book ready to go, ready for printing, and it'll remain there, and you can it'll be seamless. Most people won't even know that there's a difference.
And does that apply to charts as well?
Yes, charts, posters, books.
You just changed the way you were going to handle that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about why DNA. And this is a big one for a lot of people because, of course, they were looking for matches over a period of time. Is there some way for people to salvage that information and continue to make matches into the future?
Yes. As you know, Y chromosome DNA testing is something we've been doing the last 6-7 years. And we test the Y chromosome. We test about 46 markers. And you can save your data, capture it, by going into your account on Ancestry.com, clicking on the DNA tab. Your test results will be right there, and you can simply download a printable report of your Y chromosome data and your mitochondrial DNA data. And that essentially is going to help you preserve those markers that we tested, and then you can take that file or that report and plug it into another database that's online where you can continue to make matches.
Now, have any other companies been working with you to come up with some kind of transfer system?
Nope. We're just encouraging people to preserve their data by downloading it and having a file so that you can keep it on hand and preserve that record.
Okay. All these are going at the end of the month, right, you two?
September 30th.
September 30th at the end of the day, right, at midnight?
Yeah, midnight on September 30th, most of these things will go away or no longer be available to the public, and so we really encourage people to go on and download your information now so that your DNA or your other information from some of the other sites that are going to close at that time.
Tell us, first of all, why are some of these things going away? I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why the changes.
Well, I can speak to the DNA. It's fascinating. You know, I've been in the industry since the beginning of this kind of testing with Y and mtDNA, and it's been a fascinating journey just to see the changes. But knowing and understanding the science as it's progressed a little bit more, the technology is what's advancing some of these changes. And if you think about it in this way, we've been doing Y and mtDNA testing for, like I said, about 7 years. And what we did in that time frame, as far as growing the database, we accomplished with the autosomal DNA test in 1 year. So the demand is so high with the autosomal DNA test because anybody can take it. And it has the power and the potential to trace any one of your family lines, which fits perfectly with the Ancestry mission of discover, preserving, and sharing your family history, and that's not limited to just one line. And so the demand is so high that we want to take all our resources, allocate all our resources into this product and provide the best user experience so that people who are on Ancestry can have this rich experience using DNA to discover more about their family.
Now, let me ask you this, Anna. Is it possible for autosomal to be used in the same way that Y has in the past to follow a name line?
Yes. I actually have a personal story. me as a female, I don't have a Y chromosome, so it was if I hadn't had any male relatives to test, I would rely solely on my DNA. And with autosomal, I was able to match with another female who we both descend from a fourth great grandfather. She came through another male line that was female, and then her, where I was coming from the same great grandfather, male through my father's line. And so I was able to trace back my paternal line through the autosomal DNA test by matching with another female. You couldn't do that years ago. I mean, even 3 or 4 years ago, you couldn't do that. So that's the power and potential behind this test.
You know, the other great thing about this new DNA test, I'll kind of talk about the difference between the two. We talk about Y and mitochondrial. Y is for the male line, and the mitochondrial is for the mother's line. The ancestry DNA, the autosomal test, is so much more broad and covers really all of your ancestors potentially. But the big difference when you really look at it is how much information we're actually collecting from a person. So the Y mitochondrial test, the most markers from your DNA that you're actually collecting is around 46. With the autosomal, it's 700,000. So we're talking about the advancement in DNA technology here is incredible. So really what we're talking about is, a black and white TV versus the new HD 72-inch TV here, and how much information is actually coming through that we're actually able to see your DNA much clearer, bigger picture, and really able to help you with your family history. And that's why we're in DNA, because it's able to help you with your family history. And like Anna was saying, it's going to be able to see a large spectrum of your ancestors and the DNA that they handed down to you, and your ethnicity, your cousin matching. It's just so much more information now that it's really going to take you to that next level in researching your family history.
It's interesting you talk about that, because I had a line where I wasn't 100% sure on a branch that I was working on, but I found 5 people who descended from a couple that were back a couple of generations from that point that was just a little bit iffy, confirming to me that I had the right links.
I mean, you have the power to do that on any one of your lines. It's not limited to just one line or the other, which is very exciting to participate. And as the database grows, you'll probably find new matches that will help you lead you down to another path. And we have about 500,000 people in our database in 2 years. So it's phenomenal growth, and we're very excited to be in this business.
All right, Matt, genealogy.com. That's been around since the dawn of time, it feels like. And you're not making it disappear, but you are retiring it in a certain way.
Yeah, and honestly, there's 3 other ones that really you're going to see big changes to, and that's myfamily.com, genealogy.com, and moondia.com, and I'll talk about each of those.
Okay.
Over the years, we've built up a variety of products that enable our users to discover, preserve, and share their family history, just like Anna was saying. And we recognize that there are a lot of ways that we as a company can make family history easier, more accessible, and more fun for people all over the world. But in order to do this, we really need to focus on our core offerings to ensure that delivering the best service and best product experiences to our customers. And so to that end, we've decided to invest more aggressively in our core Ancestry.com business. And that's why we plan to retire myfamily.com, moondia.com, and make genealogy.com more of a read-only format.
So the other 2 are disappearing, but genealogy.com, you'll still have all the information, they were kind of like bulletin board posts, yes?
Yeah, and so that's still going to be a great resource for people. They're going to be able to search it, but it will become more of a read-only format.
All right, Anna Swain and Matthew Dayton from Ancestry.com talking about the retirement of several different features that we've come to know for so many years and some of the changes that are going on there. Thanks for taking the time to help us out with what's going on and what we can do to make sure that we maintain the information we have contributed there over the years and can still make the most of it. Take care, you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And coming up next, Tom Perry from TMCplace.com, our preservation authority, answering your question about why is it you can damage your discs from the top side more easily. We'll tell you more next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes.
You know, when it comes to family history, there's nothing quite like the thrill of the hunt and the excitement generated by every new discovery. Who were your immigrant ancestors? What ship did they come over on? Why did they come when they did? Did they participate in any military campaigns that took place in their day? What personal challenges did your forefathers and mothers endure? Heritage Consulting, Genealogy Research Services can get you the answers to many of these questions and more. They've been providing professional research and consultation services since 1978. Call toll-free 1-877-537-2000 to speak directly to a professional family history researcher. Heritage Consulting can research, collect, analyze, and interpret the countless documents your ancestors generated throughout their lives and present the findings to you in an attractive book or in an electronic format. The cost? Far less than you'd expect for far more than you can imagine. 877-537-2000 or go to heritageconsulting.com.
While we all love diving into the deep end of our gene pool, don't forget about capturing the histories of those who are still with us. Go to Storyworth.com to start your family story today. Each week, Storyworth.com will email a question to people whose stories you wish to preserve. Questions like, tell us about the day you got engaged, or what do you remember about your grandmother? All they have to do is reply with a story, either by email or by telephone. That story is then forwarded to the family and securely stored in a private online storybook. It doesn't get any simpler. You can enroll up to 6 storytellers for, get this, just $49 a year. You'll get a free 1-month trial, and for a limited time, Extreme Genes listeners get an additional 10% discount at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. That's Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Is your family story worth 13 cents a day? Sign up now at Storyworth.com/ExtremeGenes. Simple, secure, effective. Your story is worth telling.
Remember how fun it was to capture those special moments of your children's childhood on video and watch it back, knowing that you'd be able to have that memory forever? Or watching a home movie of your own childhood and seeing many of your loved ones who are now gone. If you haven't yet digitized those family treasures, you're at risk of losing all of them with each passing day. Time and elements slowly destroy videos and film, as well as rare old photos and audio recordings. Rescuing your memories is what TMCPlace.com has been doing for over 40 years. They can transfer all these discs and hard drives so you and your family can enjoy them digitally for generations to come, and without damaging the originals. They provide free shipping both ways on most orders. They even offer GPS real-time tracking of your package so you can be confident that nothing can ever be lost in transit. Call toll-free 1-866-483-1717 to talk to Extreme Genes Preservation Authority Tom Perry about your special project, or order online at shop.tmcplace.com.
Hey, you found us. America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes, Family History Radio. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth with Tom Perry from TMCPlace.com. He is our preservation authority. Hi, Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
We've been getting a lot of comments about a comment you made a couple of weeks ago about damaging discs from the top instead of the bottom, the side where you play.
Exactly.
Why is that?
Well, basically, when a disc is made, if it's a replicated disc, like you'd buy a Disney DVD that's actually mass manufactured in your store, they actually have a polycarbonate layer that has what we call mountains and valleys, so to speak, that are zeros or ones or binary code, which the DVD player or the CD player will read. And there's a thin piece of like aluminum foil, so to speak, that reflects off, and that's how it reads it. Well, when they use dye, instead of having the pre-pressed mountains and valleys, it turns the dye on and off. So it's either the dye's there or the dye's translucent.
So it's almost like a printer.
Dot
below
matrix.
the ink on it. Yeah, the dot
exactly.
matrix. I remember those.
In fact, if you have an LCD watch where you can see when all the LCDs are on, it makes an 8.
Right.
If the middle one's off, it makes a 0, etc. Right. So that's basically
it's
how...
kind of similar to that, huh?
Exactly. It's exactly like that. And the way that they're made, this is all on the top part of the disc, close to the label. And then when it's all made, there's a thicker piece of polycarbonate, which is on the bottom. So your data is closer to your label, not the other side.
Huh.
If we get, I can take a
but
DVD.
But not with the commercial ones. The commercial ones, it's different.
Well, the commercial ones, it's harder to damage. But the thing on commercial discs or, one-off discs that you make at home, one thing that matters either way is the aluminum foil, so to speak, layer. Once you damage that on either one, it's pretty much toast. So even on a commercial disc, like a Dumbo video from DVD from Disney or something, if you scratch through that metallic label, when the laser tries to read the information and reflect off of that aluminum foil layer, that's how it knows whether it's a 0 or a 1 for the binary code. But if that aluminum's missing, the light just penetrates right through the disc and doesn't return to the DVD or CD player and say, this is a 0 or this is a 1. So that's how they're damaged. And on all discs, the aluminum is right underneath the label. So even though the disc reads from the bottom side, that's what I call the more safe side. I can take a commercial or a homemade DVD and actually take a knife and scratch the bottom side, and I can run it through one of our machines and make it playable again. If you take a paper clip, which isn't anything like a paring knife, and scratch the top of it, if you scratch through what's called the white flood, which is kind of a protection layer on the top of it, and you actually get into the aluminum, you've ruined the disc. It cannot be fixed.
Wow. So this is why you don't want to use like a ballpoint pen.
Exactly.
Even on a label that you might stick on top of it because of the risk of the damage to that foil.
Oh, right. The very top of the polycarbonate is very, very thin. And the best way to tell is look on the bottom side of your disc and hold it up against the light. So the light's shining through the top. And if you can see light coming through, then you have damaged the label. And a lot of discs that you buy, especially the silver discs, don't have what we call a white flood on them. And that's just to make them more preservable. I always remember, protect the top side, protect the labeled side. We sell them in our store. We sell them online. You can find them any place. They make these little covers that go on the top side of the disc. It's a permanent, just like you'd put on your iPhone or your Android to protect it, or your iPad. You can buy them. They're pretty cheap. If you buy them in like 10 or 20, I think they're $1.50 a piece. But that will preserve your disc. It's the best insurance you can buy on your disc.
All right. Great advice from Tom Perry, our preservation authority. When we return, what are you going to talk about, Tom?
We're going to talk about some different ways to take care of your DVDs and CDs to make them last longer and make your DVD and CD players last longer.
Good stuff. When we return in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and ExtremeGenes.com.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Hello, Extreme Genes listeners. I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru and host of the Travel Show radio broadcast with the hottest travel deals on the planet. And now you can travel more and pay less by joining me on our Travel Show podcast. Cruises, tours, resort hotels, airline tickets, stay close to home, or travel the world. I'll show you how to travel more and pay less. Go online to ColumbusVacations.com. That's ColumbusVacations.com. Click on radio and then click on podcast. It's really that simple. ColumbusVacations.com, radio and podcast for the hottest travel deals on the planet.
And welcome back. Final segment, Extreme Genes, Family History Radio, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here with Tom Perry. He is our preservation authority from TMCplace.com. Tom, that was great information in the last segment, and I hope everybody caught it. If you missed it or you want to review it or hear it again, make sure you catch our podcast at ExtremeGenes.com or, of course, from iTunes or through iHeartRadio's Talk channel. And you can download our free podcast app, by the way, from your iPhone or Android store. So you mentioned you have some tips on preserving CDs and DVDs, and this is so important because, as you mentioned the last couple of weeks, these things can vanish very quickly.
Oh, absolutely. The old formats actually last longer than the new formats.
That's right.
They're better and clearer nowadays, but they don't last as long. So in the old days, you could put your old wedding video on the shelf after the first time you watch it, and it can sit there for 20, 30 years and pull it back out, and 9 out of 10 times, we're going to still be able to play it, transfer it to DVD, CD, or whatever. With CDs and DVDs, they're not like that. You can put them on the shelf for 10 years, never ever touch them, pop them in, they don't play anymore because a die has broken down in them. You know, again, like you mentioned in the earlier segment, commercial DVDs like a Dumbo Disney movie or something, they'll pretty much last forever because it's actually etched into the material, so they'll be there. Same thing with millennial discs. It's etched into the material, it'll be there forever.
And those are the ones at the graves, right?
Exactly. Those are the ones that are really important because it actually engraves right into the material. Plus, when the quartz discs are finally released, which have, 365 terabytes on them, they're a quartz rock, so they will pretty much last forever. We talked about do not write on the top of a disc with a ballpoint pen or any kind of a stylus that has a point on it. I usually use Sharpies. They make specific Sharpie-type instruments that are made for writing on disc, which are great too. If you do use a Sharpie, don't use a super, super fine point ones that have a plastic tip because they can damage the foil layer, which will basically render your DVD or CD unreadable.
Is there any kind of ink that can actually damage the foil, never mind the tip?
Oh, absolutely. You can buy certain kinds of ink that have kind of a chemical in them that will actually cause your disc or the label of your disc to actually crack when it gets hot inside your DVD and CD player.
Ooh.
So I tell people there's a lot of cool stuff at the dollar store. I shop at the dollar store all the time, but don't buy their markers and write on a disc. Either get a Sharpie. I've never had a problem with a fat tip Sharpie, but most Sharpies are fine as long as you don't use a super, super fine tip. Just be careful. And one thing I really, really discourage is don't ever put a paper label on a disc of any kind. The chances of you getting it perfectly centered are slim. If it's not perfectly centered and it's spinning in your DVD player, if you don't have a real high quality DVD player, it's not going to be able to read it because it's like a record that's kind of shifting back and forth. We do a lot of videos for people that want to get a college scholarship to play on a tennis team or a football team or whatever. And a lot of the schools, when they take the disc out of the envelope to look at it, if it has a paper label on it, they throw it in the garbage. So
No
you never
kidding.
even looked at it. Oh, absolutely.
Wow. Now, what do you use then instead of paper?
Well, you either want to use inkjet, which is not as bad as paper, which I don't like because then once it gets wet, it runs. If you use thermal printing, they're probably the best because they permanently print on it. Or you can use what we call, which is a magset type of label, which we can put a full color print right on the disc. And I put in my saltwater fish tank, and they still look fine.
So it goes right onto the top of the CD itself? There's no paper involved? Is that what you're saying?
There's no paper. We call it a white flood. It's a special material that's put on the top of the disc that not only makes it easy for us to print on it permanently, that won't run or anything, it actually protects the disc itself as well. So you want to do that. Don't print on a paper label and put it on the disc. One thing that happens a lot too is even if you get it centered on there just right, through heat in your car, through going through the mail, the label can come a little bit loose and then it'll come off in the person's DVD player and ruin that. That's why most colleges and universities won't put a DVD or a CD in their machine that has a paper label.
I've concluded that preservation can be scary, Tom, from all the things you're saying. All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good.
I cannot believe all the ground we covered today. That wraps up our show for this week. Thanks also to Mimi McDonald-Hartnett from New Jersey and Anna Swain and Matthew Dayton from Ancestry.com for filling us in on all the changes that are coming right up. Take care and remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.